All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, August 2, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please.
Council members Cole.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
McCurris.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Sale.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Baranco.
Here.
All right, with us tonight to give our invocation is Erica Varco. She's pastor at the Table Ministry. Welcome back, Erica. I ask that you stand for her invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Hello, good evening. For those of you that don't know about the Table Ministry, we worship at Shenanigans Sports Bar. So it's a privilege to be here in a little bit more of a traditional building. But I just wanted to share with all of you that this summer we've been out and about in our community. You know, the shores of Lake Lorraine, at the banquet. We've been all over helping kids in foster care and collecting diapers for the women at VOA. We've been at in the theater and the sporting events, and all over is evidence of your important work and how much you care for all the people of this city and our little small church meeting people where they are. It is really a pleasure to be here and pray for all of you that are also doing the same. And knowing that Jesus meets us too in the joys and the junk and the hard times and the celebrations. It's a real honor to be asked here. Short notice and sometimes running a little late, but to pray for all of you in your important work. So let us pray. Oh God, tonight we gather to lift up to you our leaders. We pray for them to lead through your wise counsel and guidance. We pray for them to lay aside selfish desire and petty grievances, instead focusing always on the best interests of the people. May all of them lead through humility and love, leading all of us to peace and unity. Dear Lord, keep everyone here tonight, all of our leaders and city people, grounded in what is good and true. Protect them from temptations and distractions of power and influence. May they know you and follow you, leading through faith, working for the good of the people they serve. We pray all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you. Have a great summer. Yes, I'm glad I did myself last time. All right. Take care.
All right, thank you, Pastor Varco, for the invocation. We'll move on to item 4, our consent agenda. Any changes there?
Move approval. Second, Neitzert.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Neitzert. Discussion on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor McCurris.
I would ask that we would pull sub-item 3 from agenda item 6.
All right. We pull.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Starr.
Yes, I would move that we pull items 6, 15, 18, 21, and 29, and it won't be as bad as it sounds.
All
A
right.
couple of them match up with each other.
All right, those are be pulled. Any other changes? Discussion? All right, let's take a vote on that motion then.
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Move ahead to 36 on our agenda, regular agenda. Look for a motion to approve that, please.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second Cole.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sale.
a motion to amend by placing item 63 immediately after item 49.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen on that. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one.
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Back to the main motion as amended. Any other changes there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Before we move on with our regular agenda, just want to review public input for our agenda items. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. Very important for tonight, because I know we have quite a few items. Comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. During general public input at the end of the meeting, comments will be 3 minutes per person and on items we didn't cover earlier. So with that being said, we'll move to the first pulled consent agenda item.
Sub-item 3 from Agenda Item 6, Health Operation Hope Fund Agreement, Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation, $0.
Councilor McCurris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I pulled this was for 2 reasons, and positive. Number one, extremely supportive of this project, and number one, want to take the opportunity to highlight it. We have a mental health crisis in our nation, and I think anytime we're using public dollars to fight a crisis, we should highlight that work and make the public aware of it. And then secondly, I think we need to just make sure we're doing good follow-up work with how the public funds are being used in this instance. And so I wanted to provide that opportunity tonight. Really, very quickly, just a couple specific questions that I wanted to provide some staff the opportunity to answer. Could I do that now, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Just three quick questions. First, I just wanted the staff, if they could, share how many people have been helped by the fund and what's the amount remaining in the fund. And then secondly, if you could share how the proposed changes to the contract will help us achieve the goals of the original reason the fund was set up. And then finally, just wanted to say, is there anything that the council needs to do further to provide support in this area of mental health?
Good evening.
Andy Patterson, Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation. We hold the Operation Hope Fund, so I was asked to be here to help address these questions, and thank you to Alicia from the Health Department for helping line this up. So as of right now, the fund has helped 417 people. Those are patient payments, so there could be some duplicate services in there. I don't have a breakdown of unique individuals in that. Of the fund's use, there's been a couple different uses of it. $33,000 has been distributed by Avera to those patients, and that is to meet some of the immediate needs they have upon leaving the link. And that's primarily been transportation and emergency housing. The fund had a little broader mandate than that. It allowed for some public awareness. And so at the recommendation of the link board, who plays kind of a policy advisor on the fund, $17,750 has been spent for a public relations campaign. And then not spent, but kind of allocated, is a social work position for $78,000. And the logic behind that is linking people with resources is every bit as useful as the dollars themselves to pay for things. So on the books down at the foundation is $425,438. There's another $78,000 we expect to come out. So that would be $364,438 to be spent. Also add to that, we released dollars kind of ahead of time to the partners. So we gave $50,000 to Avera. They spent $33,000. So $17,000 is kind of still there, also available to be spent. To move to your second question, which I think was, how do the changes achieve the goals? Really the whole purpose of this is how do we help people with mental health? Giving dollars away to individuals, especially for something like mental health, it's hard to define who qualifies and how are you getting appropriate payments. And so with that, and working with Counselor Selberg, we said, let's start with clients of the link because we've got some case management there. After we'd open it, we were requested, could we broaden this to help more people? And our attorney looked at it and said, we need the city to give a broader mandate, and that's why the amendment's before you. The thought is to kind of provide the same thing that the fund provides to link clients to patients of the other founding partners of the link. And so that would specifically be Sanford Health, Avera McKinnon, and the Falls Community Health. Details will be forthcoming on that, but likely they would get $50,000 chunks of money that would be drawn down. I think one of the really kind of neat things happening because of this is with the Helpline Center rolling out 988, that they're seeing increased calls. We think they will be able to take those calls, refer people to these different providers, and know that there's dollars to pay for that initial visit. So hopefully these are all things that encourage people to ask for help and get out in front of a provider. So I can answer the first two. The third one, Rich, we manage money at the foundation, so I wouldn't want to guess what exactly helps, but I sure appreciate you highlighting this issue and the city putting dollars behind it.
Thank you, Andy. I just think this is a great example of public funds being put to work through a partner. I think it's a great example also just of the transparency that they offer and how the public funds are being used. So thank you for your great work, and thank you to Councilor Selberg for getting this started last year.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Counselor Selberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Counselor, for bringing up, and thank you to Andy and Alicia for being here tonight and all the work you do as we've been working on this for quite a while now. I know that I'm excited about, we all are, especially tying in with the 988, the new number in the helpline center. I think that's really going to help this take off. And I think all of our goal was when we got this together was hopefully to see those funds move quickly and get out there and get used because they're needed. So hopefully it really starts moving forward. But it's nice to see that we're moving into that portion with the 988 number. Nice to see Sanford and again Avera step up to help us with, you know, referring people over to the help they need as they go through this. And of course the Link, who's been here since the start. So anyway, a lot of good people still doing a lot of good work, and I can appreciate all the council support. I know Councilor Erickson's here too, who did some help with me when we got this together. I know she's here because she was here 2 minutes and was already busting my hump. So anyway, we did put in a lot of work on this stuff for a long time, and I think we're getting there. So anyway, thank you all for being here to answer the questions, and thank you for the question.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Anyone from the public want to speak on that item? All right, Counselor, can I have a motion?
Move to approve, McCoris.
Second call.
All right, motion by McCoris, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen? McCurris?
Yes.
Neisert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes. All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Next item is sub-item 6, Parks, Recreation, Aquatic, and Ice Rink Development, Pros Consulting, $99,640. Sub-item 15, City Attorney's Legal Services Engagement, Woods, Fuller, Schultz, and Smith, PC, $20,000. Sub-item 18, Planning and Development Services, Housing, Legal Services Engagement, Davenport, Evans, Hertz, and Smith, $20,000. Sub-item 21, Highway Streets, Marion Road, 259th to Opportunity Drive, Railroad Preliminary Engineering, BNSF, $34,000. Sub-item 29, Highway Streets, Rail Yard Redevelopment, Quiet Zone Preliminary Design, Alfred Benish and Company, $73,131.87.
Do you want to take these all together?
Yes, please, if you don't
Go ahead.
mind, if,
Yep.
with your consent. Start with Director Kearney or someone. Just really one question as part of this contract. So I'm getting a lot of questions about timeline. And I know you went through that with us in a informational, but I just wanted to reiterate because when people start seeing their swimming pools this time of the year, and I got the memo that said we're having to start closing already, and so I'm not ready for summer to be over. But if you could give me the quick timeline of what we're looking at for the public input stages as part of this contract.
Yeah, so our consultants are scheduled to be in town at the end of this month to start the initial public engagement process. We'll have a general meeting where the entire community is invited, likely at the downtown library, just to be educated a little bit about the current state of aquatics in Sioux Falls, what services we currently provide, how do we compare to national standards, do we have gaps in services, and what are the things that we're trying to achieve with this quality of life bond. And then that following night, we'll have individual meetings with the various different neighborhoods where those pools are located. So if folks don't want to come to the general meeting, they can also come to those individual meetings. And then even at that general meeting, we'll have breakout groups. So if you just want to talk about what's going to happen in McKinnon or Keene Park or Frank Olson, you'll be able to do that. And then every month, they'll come back into town, re-engage the community and those neighborhoods until we get to a situation where we feel like we've got a really good game plan for each of those sites, and then ultimately can come back to the council with a package that you guys can be comfortable with as well. So,
If I could, one other quick, I promised one now too. Are we at a point if someone or a neighborhood or the city said, you know what, we really need another indoor facility more than we need to replace outdoor pools? Could that be part of the discussion, or are we far enough down the road that we've said we're ready, here's where our aquatics plan is, in that process?
Yeah, I think, obviously, the result of the Midco has been hugely successful, and we think we're going to have those kinds of conversations come up about what's the best value for our community, how do we best serve our residents and meet their needs, given our cold climate. But certainly outdoor aquatics has been very popular this summer, and so I think it'll run the gamut of the kinds of feedback we'll get, but obviously, that's the purpose of the community engagement process.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
All right, do you want to vote on each of these individually?
No,
Was
I
that
want to
your
do them
intent?
as a package if the
Okay.
council's okay with that.
Okay, did you have a question as well, Counselor Neitzer?
If
On this one?
it's okay, if I could, on this particular item, I just had one question, I guess,
Go
for
ahead.
Director Kearney. So this, I think it's a good approach, you know, what we're looking to fund in terms of, you know, getting the input of the people in the individual neighborhoods, and there's no doubt we need to replace or upgrade all of those pools. They're at their end of their life and all of that. The challenge and something I think we need to think about is, the Parks Master Plan lays out, you know, it shows the influence areas and how many pools that it says that we should have to cover what of other areas, or the whole area of the city. What I see in the plan, and then what I continue to hear from citizens, and I have over the years, is I don't think it's synced up. I think there's people that feel like we should have a pool or we should have some water amenity closer to us. And so if you told somebody in the south part of the city, this pool over here serves you, they may disagree with that. So I think we just need to think broader as well, and maybe it's not part of this particular item, about what are we going to do as we grow, and what if the expectations in our community thinks that the master plan doesn't reflect what they think. And maybe it's not a full pool, but I mean, it could be, you know, spray parks and things like that. So I just sense there's just kind of a disconnect. And I hear it from people in my district too, who feel like, you know, we should have a pool and there's Keene Park, but they would say that the plan would say it fits, but people up at 60th Street North would potentially disagree with that. So just, you know, and obviously if we start throwing in other pools, the bond's going to get bigger, but just something that I think we need to think about.
Sure, that's fair. You bet.
All right, thanks, Don.
Yep.
Can
All
I
right,
put
next item.
15 and 18 together, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, you
And then
bet.
do public? Maybe the city attorney can answer both of those, because they're small amounts, but both of the two contracts, extensions.
Do you have a question?
Oh, yes, item 15 and item 18, they're both increases to the contract. What are the services that we're receiving for that contract?
Yeah, I'll probably answer them separately, and
That's fine.
Director Eckhoff is here too. So 15 is actually in a litigation case that we're engaged with right now involving Dockendorf Equipment Company.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which company?
Dockendorf
Dockendorf.
Equipment Company. So
Okay.
it's a litigation case that Woods is representing us on. We're approaching the end of the initial contract. There was a first $20,000 contract, and this is, as we're in the discovery phase, we anticipate needing more fees, and thus this request.
Thank you.
And then the second one is related to TIF 26, and is Davenport Evans, and let Director Eckhoff give you some background on that one.
Yes, good evening. Jeff Eckhoff, Planning and Development Services. TIF 26 is the accessible housing TIF. The first housing TIF we're doing will be with Kelly Nielsen. Is 65 units. We are scheduled for the September 6th informational to bring that to you, and I'm working with Jim to make ourselves available if you have other questions before then. But that's the plan, and so the services will be to review the plan, review the development agreement and the documents for the TIF.
The reason it stood out to me, Director, is just that we haven't approved it and we haven't heard about the plan. We've been teased with what the plan's going to be, and then we're appropriating funds. So, and I get there's a chicken or egg that some of the details have to be worked out first, but it seems to be in the wrong order.
This one, so a couple things happened. One, Kelly needs to get the plan done so it can go into next spring, and then we ran up against budget hearings. And so informational sessions became closed, and that was some of the complications and struggles there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And then item 29.
21 and 29,
Excuse
but they're
me,
both
21,
railroad related, and so I was hoping Director Cotter could unpack both of those for us in one One binder? No binders, thank you, Director.
What's that?
You're going to do it off the top of your head without a binder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mark Cotter with Public Works.
Give us an overview of what we're trying to do with quiet zones and where we're at in the process, because there's been lots of discussion as we've all seen the development downtown and the part of it are there. So these funds are to move that process along, or where are we at, I guess?
They are. That's item 29. Item 21 is a contract that's specific to North Marion Road. So we're just starting to embark on the next arterial street design just north of Foundation Park. And that's a preliminary engineering contract with Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They'll be involved with site reviews, diagnostics, making sure that our engineering firm is syncing up with their engineering standards. And so that's specific to 21. And then 29 is specific to the quiet zone. Spanish companies, they have a really strong railroad background, and then they will really help guide the preliminary design for Weber, 6th Street, and 8th Street. And really what it is it's designing a number of these supplemental safety measures of medians, gates, diagnostics to make them eventually qualify for whistle-free or quiet zones.
Will that eventually be a city expense? Will there be federal funds available for it, or are there funds remaining yet from part of the railroad redevelopment area, or how will we fund it if we go ahead with the project?
We've worked closely with the chamber to try to get some state funds, and we just testified for the railroad board 2 weeks ago. I'm hopeful that there'll be some state funds, but at this point, I think collectively as a city, we're going to have to approach it specifically, at least for 6th Street, that will bid this fall. That'll be city funds, but we'll certainly continue to pursue it. I think there was really good interest at the state level and the legislature this last year to help help this cause, because a number of cities are trying to tackle this, if you will, and they're fairly expensive measures. So, but at this point in time, for 6th Street, I think we'll have to plan on doing those measures with city funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
All right, anyone from the public want to speak on any of these 5 items we just discussed here? All right, I'd look for a motion.
I would
for
move to
package.
approve. Yep, I would move to approve items, sub-items 6, 15, 18, 21, and 29.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Starr, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 37 is a new 2022-23 retail malt beverage license for Bauer Enterprises LLC, Sinclair, 5108 North Cliff Avenue, with conditional use permit 16194-2022 being approved on May 5th, 2022, pending final inspections per building services. Item 38 is a request to add video lottery terminals with the 2022-23 retail malt beverage license for Bauer Enterprises LLC, Sinclair, 5108 North Cliff Avenue, with conditional use permit 16194-2022 being approved on May 5th, 2022, pending final inspections per building services. Item 39 is transfer of retail liquor license from Pancakes and More LLC, 2715 West 41st Street, to the Heist LLC, 605 East 8th Street, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 40 is a special one-day malt beverage license for Sioux Falls Sports Authority to be operated at Howard Wood Field, 1200 Northwestern Avenue, for the Sioux Falls Marathon on August 28th, 2022. Item 41 is a special one-day liquor license for T-Slat Incorporated to be operated at Raven Industries parking lot, 205 East 6th Street, for a 605 Maid Market on August 27th, 2022.
Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'm here to answer any questions that you have for items 37 through 41.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public here to speak on any of those items? All right, Council, you got any questions on any of these?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Starr?
Yes, Jamie, item 40, being it's a school district, do we wait till, does the school district take a special action to allow alcohol on their grounds, or they allow alcohol at other events, don't they? Some of the tailgating stuff, I guess I've seen people
Yeah,
consume alcohol in the parking lot. And
I am honestly not aware if the school board takes a different action, but this has been requested before for this same event and others as well. So when they come to me, they've not done it. They don't tell me if they've done anything from school board, but with a special one day, it would be allowed on our
Thank you.
end.
Any other questions for Jamie? All right, look for a motion.
I move approval, Jensen.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale to approve these items. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
That passes 8-0. Item 42, please.
Item 42 is a second reading, deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30, ordinances, resolutions, motions, and other documents requiring council approval by requiring an annotated agenda. This item was referred to the Operations Committee at the council meeting of April 13th, 2022, and reported to the council at the meeting of July 19th, 2022. Sponsors are council members Brecky and Starr.
Tom, good evening.
Mayor, Tom Greco, City Clerk. This was deferred from last week, and the purpose is later on tonight's agenda, we'll have a resolution addressing the City Council's policy manual, and they kind of go hand in hand. This could stand alone by itself, so I just want to explain it real quick. To me, what it does is it doesn't place any new requirements on staff throughout the city. It does require the clerk's office to take an additional step when preparing agendas. So just as background, in June of 2020 or July 2020, an ordinance was passed that required basically a background and objective statement to be prepared and submitted with each agenda item, which in turn was placed on the agenda. So what we're talking about tonight is already available online for the public. What this particular ordinance does is it takes that background and objective statement, which you can think of it kind of as a summary, just a short background, what the basis of the request is or the proposed legislation, and the objective, what it's intended to accomplish in very broad levels. It takes that information and it puts it on the agenda itself. So for example, if you look at tonight's agenda, you see recommendations, you see sponsors, you see information about planning commission votes. It would be akin to that, where we just take additional information that already exists and place it on the agenda, more so for consumability of the agenda and what's going on with particular items. And I do want to point out, I would ask, the Operations Committee would ask for an amendment to strike the words "with each agenda item" in the sentence that you see before you, because this would apply to ordinances, resolutions, and motions, not necessarily all of the other items that preceded, for example, the items that Jamie just went through, which those also include background information on the online agenda. I'll just conclude by saying this improves, as I've said before, the consumability of these agendas. Our agendas already do have a tremendous amount of information with them online as they're presented each week. As a matter of fact, upwards of about 5,000 to 6,000 documents per year are posted online, and with these agendas. So there's a great degree of information out there, and certainly there's no substitute for diving into that information to really study and understand what's on the agenda. So I would urge that amendment and also approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 42 tonight? Council, any questions here tonight?
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Jensen,
Mr. Mayor.
seconded by Cole. Counselor Jensen.
I'd like to make a motion to amend by striking "with each agenda item" from the proposed language as outlined in the above document.
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole. Any discussion on that? Let's vote on that amendment.
Council members Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
All right, that passes 8-0. So we're at the main motion as amended. We got a motion and a second. Any other changes, questions? Counselor Starr?
Yes, thank you. I want to say thank you to a couple of people. Counselor Brecky was instrumental in bringing this forward. Openness and transparency and good government is a big part of what we do. and making it easier for the citizens to understand the agenda, which is kind of complex when you would walk into the chambers the first time or you're trying to find information. And so anything that we can do to make it easier. And then to also thank our city clerk, Mr. Greco has done an incredible job of bringing this together. And again, it's about openness, transparency, allowing our citizens to be involved in the process. It becomes old hat for us after a few years of reading through and trying to find the information that you need. But oftentimes citizens are part of our meetings and part of city government maybe once in their entire lifetime, whether it's a zoning issue or an issue that's important to them. And making it easier for them to be involved in the process is so important to what we do and to what good government is. So I thank you for your support and the time and the thought process that it's taken to get to this point and to see a finish line.
All right, any other discussion on this? All right, let's take a vote then, please.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Neitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
43 is a second reading, an ordinance revising 124.12 of City Code that provides for Sioux area Metro Transit fares. Sponsor is the mayor.
Good evening, Sam.
Good evening, Sam Trebelcock, City of Sioux Falls Planning and Development Services Office. I have a few slides for you tonight on the second reading on the kids for ride for free on transit ordinance. More than anything, want to go through and highlight some of the purposes and the reasons that we're doing this, and also to answer some of the questions that were at first reading and kind of get through that, and of course open it up for questions. Purpose of the ordinance, three real main things. Free rides on transit will enhance students' access to school activities and jobs. Free rides for kids will encourage students and families to ride transit for a lifetime. We want to try to get them riding early and ride for the rest of their lives. And then free rides for kids supports the One Sioux Falls framework of kids and families. We think that's all important. And also it's important, I think you'll start to see as I go through the rest of the slides, it's an important component of what we're trying to do to improve the transit system and remake the transit system. So the fare ordinance changes really kind of fall into these three areas. All the following are now proposed to be free in the ordinance. Children 10 and under, accompanied by adult. Before it said 5 and under, and the reason for that it was already free. But now it's 10 and under. The reason we moved it to 10 and under is because they don't have school IDs typically. And if they're accompanied by an adult, the bus driver will obviously know that they're riding for free. Children 11 to 18, they typically have a school ID. If they don't, they can get a freedom pass. That's something we have available already. They can prove that they are a school-age kid and then ride for free. And then lastly, paratransit trip rates for school-age kids with a school ID. They also ride for free, or they can get a freedom pass too. So it's those three things. One thing I would note, in that children 11 to 18, we noted during first reading, I think it was a citizen that caught that the clean copy of the ordinance was incorrect, and it actually showed it was 6 to 10 and didn't include the 11 to 18. So we're asking for an amendment tonight to change that clean copy and reflect that. I want to kind of bring up, so there were some questions during first reading about transit revenue. I think it's important to kind of get the big picture a little bit too, and then kind of get an idea as we're going into transit revenue. Since this is all the way back to 95, since really about 2010, it's been coming down, and it's a significant reduction. And this is because of transit ridership. Ridership's going down. This isn't because we're giving a lot of different free rides. There are some of that, but mainly it's because of ridership. And this is partly getting into what we're talking about, remaking the transit system. We need to start looking at ways to get people to ride transit again. And this is, we believe, to be one way for them that they're going to start riding transit. It's going to get people to notice and understand transit's there again, especially after the pandemic. We've had significant decreases in transit ridership over the last couple of years. Many of those have not come back. How do we get them to come back? This is one way we think we can do that. You'll hear the other ways during our budget hearing and also during our transit development plan that'll be coming forward to you in the fall. Transit Farebox revenue overall is about $383,000 right now in 2021. Breaks down to $118,000 in paratransit revenue and about $265,000 in fixed route Farebox revenue. So at the same time, we have, and we know how many high school, or we know how many kids under 18 are riding the transit system. In 2018, we had 77,000, but again, that's come down. We need them to come back. So in terms of an estimated impact to the Farebox revenue, right now, most of the kids under 18 are riding for free already because Sioux Area Metro accepts the high school bus pass. They have trippers that on the school bus, the yellow school buses, they go into neighborhoods and they purchase that pass. Well, we accept that pass because in some cases, some of those buses come right to the depot and then they get on another bus, a Sioux Area Metro bus, and they ride and they were like, hey, we'll comp that. We used to actually provide those tripper services, but to help us with some of our capital needs, so it was kind of a deal that we made with the school district. So understand, many of those kids are riding for free already. Free rides for transit will increase kids riding transit, but will not significantly affect current Farebox revenue, of course. If more come on, obviously the fixed route buses have capacity, and we want them to come back, but it's not going to impact what we're receiving already. Paratransit will have a modest effect because we are charging those kids. So we included overall the kids that do not have the school bus passes. We took that into account, and then also the paratransit rides. Overall, about 6% reduction or about $25,000 decrease in revenues anticipated based upon looking at these numbers. So with that, I would take any of your questions.
All right, thanks, Sam. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 43 here tonight? All right, council, you got questions for Sam here tonight? All right, Councilor McCurris, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Sam. Can you clarify just a tinge? If I'm 19 years old, still going to, let's say, Joe Foss Axtell, and I've got the high school bus pass, do I ride for free?
So if you have a school ID, and you can show that you are attending a high school, you would be able to ride for free. That same thing comes up, and it came up at our PTAB meeting in relation to some of the kids that are especially ride paratransit, that are some cases go to school as long as 21. And that's specifically included in the ordinance too, that it would allow for that too.
Thank you.
Other questions here? All right, we'll take a motion.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Jensen?
I'd make a motion to amend line 5 of the fares table by striking 6 through 10 and inserting 11 to 18.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale. Discussion on that? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Neitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco.
All right, that amendment's going to pass 8-0, so we're back to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion there, Councilor Neitzert?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go it alone on this one, but I did in 2016 as well. Cost is not the reason why people choose not to ride transit. They don't ride it because it's not efficient and it doesn't meet the needs of most people. The rational choice for people is to use their car, and that is largely because of the policy decisions that have been made over the years, myself included, our infrastructure investments and our budgetary priorities. we build our cities for cars and everything else is an afterthought, so we're no different than any other city in America. In 2015, we did a pilot on this for one summer, and then in 2016, it was made permanent. And at the time, I was the only no vote, and at the time, said it wasn't because I don't like kids. It was simply because I just didn't feel like giving rides away for free to somebody like me without, for example, means testing it. I didn't think that was a good thing to do. I don't need the taxpayer to pay for my kids' rides. If it was means tested, I could maybe get on board. The bigger issue, and to be fair, I've talked to, and Sam made reference to it, I think they're on the right track, but I think the challenge for this side of the aisle, the council, is that we can't keep doing these little, just give this away for free, give this away for free. The reason why transit continues to struggle is, again, because we don't invest in it. We just don't make it a priority. We spend record amounts every year on roads, and roads are important, but when you make it easier, and very convenient, obviously, and you don't invest in the system, nobody's going to use it. People are going to make the rational decision. There's been this argument that, and I don't know if it's provable, that, if you give the rides away for free, that kids will use it and then they'll become lifelong riders. And I guess I would say, if you give me a free toaster and it's awful, I'll use it once and then I'm going to throw it away. I'm not going to keep using it. And so we have to improve the toaster, and that's going to take a lot more work, and it's a lot harder than just giving away free rides. So is it going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things financially at this point? No. Although I would love to get to a point where the transit system was doing so well that it really, really hurt to do this. But I would wish the next council, at the point, if we ever decide that we want to reimpose it, who wants to bring that proposal forward to start charging kids for rides. I don't think politically that's going to be something anybody's going to want to do. So rather than just piecemeal, just continuing to just give away rides, we have to make really tough decisions and we have to prioritize it. And it's going to take a lot more than just a little bit of money foregone. It's going to take some major decisions and major commitment, and we just haven't got there yet. So, thank you.
Other discussion on this? All right, seeing none, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
No.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 7-1. Next item, please.
Next item, 44, is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 5500 East 18th Street from the LW Live Work and RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban Districts to the RA3 Apartment Residential High Density and C3 Commercial Community Districts, number 16590-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicant, C.R. Lloyd Associates Incorporated, Luke Whitegrave.
Jeff, good evening.
Good evening. Jeff Schmidt, representing Planning and Development Services on items this evening. This is in the southeast part of town. It's out near Dudley Farm. And it is, as we just mentioned, a lot of rezonings from different land uses, from RD and Live Work to C3. And it's 10 acres of the site. What they're proposing to do is to build multifamily housing for market rate in this area. The reason it's going to C3 is there's one building on the south side that's a 4-story mixed-use building. There's going to be retail on the first level and then 3 levels of apartments above that. And then there's 6 additional buildings to the north of that that are 2 stories, different townhomes. So that's why it's going to C3 on that south end.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? Council, any questions for Jeff here? Councilor Starr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Schmidt, I guess my question is, are we backing out looking at the whole area? We're approving this piecemeal in this whole area without having an overall look at the whole thing? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I mean, we're making changes, the Center for Active Generations is in this area. There's a large clinic that's part of it. Have we looked at it to make sure that the whole picture works rather than each of the pieces?
It's a good question, and it's a hard question to answer because I'm coming after just listening to Councilmember Neitzer look at transportation. Yes, we're looking at it. I mean, we look at the rezoning on whether or not it fits the comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan is specifically entitled that because it has to be comprehensive. And does it fit the entire area? Yes, it does. But specifically to your question, you should probably always do more to look to see if it fits into everything else.
Well, I guess, and that's the point, is we look at the core of the city as we're making some changes and some things that we're looking parcel by parcel or several parcels, and we're making those changes. And again, it fits, does it fit the overall plan? But at the same time, are we forecasting families that are in the townhomes? Is there enough room in the schools in the area? You know, I mean, that bigger picture stuff that, you know, we get each individual piece and it makes sense, but when we combine it all together, does it make sense? 2 + 2 gets us to 5 or 6 rather than, 4. So more of a statement as we take a look at how we do this.
All right. Other questions for Jeff?
Move approval?
Okay.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 45 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at various locations, generally located south of West 41st Street, east of South Ellis Road, north of West Vista Park Street, and west of future South Grinnell Avenue from the RR Single Family Residential, Rural, and AG Agricultural to the RS Single Family Residential, Suburban, and CN Conservation Districts, number 16612, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Sponsor is the mayor.
Thank you very much. So again, this is in the southwest part of town. This is the Prairie Meadows neighborhood, and you've seen this before because this was annexed in the City of Sioux Falls. This is existing rural residential neighborhood, and when these property owners requested to come into the City of Sioux Falls, they came in from the county as rural residential, and now we're rezoning them to a city zoning district, which is residential single family. So all the property owners are aware of that. It allows them to do what they need to do in the City of Sioux Falls, which is remain single family.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 45? Council, any questions on this one?
Move approval?
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Cole. Discussion? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, or 8-0. Next item.
Item 46 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 1419 North Garfield Avenue from the RD1 residential duplex and twin home districts to the O Office District number 16630, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicants, Lloyd Companies on behalf of Grant Washnock, Scott Blount.
Thank you. We received a request from the applicant today to withdraw this item. The project itself is not going forward, so the request is for you to approve a withdrawal.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public want to speak on this item? All right, council, can I get a motion to withdraw?
So move, Jensen.
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole to withdraw this item. Any discussion? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Item 47.
Item 47 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located south of East 57th Street and east of South Dubuque Avenue from the LW Live Work District to the CN Conservation District, number 16632, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicants, Empire Homes, Brady Hyde.
This is a developing residential neighborhood on the south side of 57th Street in the southeast part of town. It's a 6-acre parcel, and as they put their plans together and updated their preliminary plan to a development engineering plan. This is their conservation drainage area. They knew it was going to be conservation and drainage. They didn't know the extent of it until they got to this engineering analysis. So now they're rezoning it from live work to conservation.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here to speak on 47 tonight? Council, you got any questions on this item?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second call.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Bronco. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 48 is the second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of East Arrowhead Parkway and west of 6 Mile Road from the C4 Commercial Regional District to the O Office and RA3 Apartment Residential High Density Districts, number 16648, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicants, Signature Companies LLC, Clint Ackerman.
This is on the east side of town. It's just north of Arrowhead Parkway, and it's in, again, a residential developing area. It's currently all commercial along Arrowhead Parkway, and it's also along this CN drainage conservation area. They're proposing to rezone portions of it to the west, to office, and to the east, to some apartments with this commercial in the middle to have more of a mixed-use development along this drainage area.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Council, any questions on this? All right, take a motion.
Move approval, Sale.
Second call.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 49 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of I-90 and east of North Cliff Avenue from the AG Agricultural District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, number 16653, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicants, Van Buskirk Company, Steve Van Buskirk.
Thank you. Again, this is in the northeast portion of town. This is the industrial to the west. It's an 82-acre parcel. I'm going to stay in this area a little bit. The applicant's going to have their proposal, and they have a preliminary plan coming up on the next item on this agenda. The access is going to be to the west. Obviously, you can't go south to I-90. They're not going east to I-229. They're going to direct their activity to go to the west into the industrial neighborhood out to Cliff Avenue. We did not bring in 72nd Street North, and the township is requesting, along with this proposal, to not have access and development going to 72nd Street North until such time as the entire development comes in to the City of Sioux Falls and it's a city street. So that's what we're showing now. That's what we want to make aware to City Council. We're not having it go north to a gravel township road. All activity is west onto the existing city streets out to Cliff Avenue. So with this rezoning, it's currently ag, and they're proposing to rezone it to industrial to have some large warehouse distribution sites with, you can see on this, they have a cul-de-sac to the north and the two roads go to the west out to Cliff Avenue.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 49 tonight? Council, you have any questions for Jeff on this item? Councilor Starr?
Yep, Mr. Schmidt, can you flip back one? So to the east, how close is that ready to be developed? I mean, again, how is it going to fit the whole area rather than, to the, or what are the potential, I guess?
Correct. Good questions. So they were cordial enough to facilitate the discussion to bring in the entire proposal to us to look at. We do not have sanitary sewer for what you're seeing to the east right now. So we have to extend sanitary sewer. We have to extend roadway networks. But we at least wanted to see how they would lay that out. And they wanted to know that at the same time too. how so they brought in a preliminary plan to have those concepts shown. Now, to answer your question, it's not in the 5-year plan or utility program, so it's probably in that 10-year time frame, unless, again, the market changes and we have more tax dollars to get out there earlier, or there's more potential further east. But right now, it's not looking like in the 5 years, but they at least showed us that this was what they would like to do, large lot warehouse distribution industrial with those 2 road alignments to put in water and sewer.
So at some point, they could say, hey, we're ready to go, and the city's not, and they could make that investment in the infrastructure, or are we talking millions type of
Yes,
thing
and
into the
that's
infrastructure?
typical. I mean, when they've come in before other locations in the city, and we go, if there's certain utilities of the main 3, sewer, water, and roads, well, like, it's currently not built to city standards, they have to upfront those costs, or you have to wait until city public utilities are there, and they're like, well, can we upfront the cost? They have to put in water or sewer, they have to put in the road network, so they upfront the cost and they do it.
So do we let them do part of it, or do they have to do all 3?
They have to meet city standards.
Okay.
So, and the applicants are known in this community, they know they're doing this development, they are looking at, what's the demand? Is the demand so high, again, right now, the market for warehouse distribution, that it's worth going out there and putting on the utilities? Or does the market slow down and they wait till the city gets out there with public funds? And that's really why we're working with the township on 72nd Street North. Right now, they're like, there's no need to go north and build 72nd Street North because there's no other activity. But when there is, someone's going to build 72nd Street North.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions on this one? All right, look for a motion, please.
Move approval. Jensen.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale. Any discussion on that? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen, McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes. That passes 8-0. Next item.
Next item is 63, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Interstate Crossings Edition 16649, 2022. Private applicants, Van Buskirk Company, Steve Van Buskirk. Moved by amendment.
As we just discussed, we would like always to have the rezonings come forward with a preliminary subdivision plan to look at the utilities and how they plan on putting in utilities. This is phase 1 that we've just talked about. So they showed where their drainage is, what's going to be graded as, how the water and sewer and the road alignment's going to be in for phase 1. They also started looking at phase 2 and how they would develop that. This is the preliminary plan for approval.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone here to speak on item 63 tonight? Council, any questions on this?
Move approval. Sale.
Second, Selberg.
Motion by Sale, seconded by Selberg. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmember Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes. All right, that's going to pass 8-0. Next item, please.
Next item is item 50, a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located south of West 12th Street and west of South Ellis Road from the AG Agricultural District to the O Office District, number 16663, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Private applicants, Allen Homes Incorporated, Douglas Allen.
This is on West 12th Street. As you can see in the area west of Ellis Road, they're rezoning this to go to the office district. I'm sure planning staff has talked to you before about residential compatible storage, but I'll kind of not assume and talk to you a little bit about that. We did those back in 2013, 2014 with the zoning code. You can do industrial storage, but residential compatible storage is, as it tries to help, again, transparent to the citizens, it's to be more compatible with residential neighborhoods. It has to have a pitched roof, it has to have brick out front. People go by and they're like, look at those apartment garages because they're longer, but they have to break them up after like 4 or 5 garages. You can't have a whole mass of them. But these are going to be residential compatible storage so that they fit more into a residential neighborhood. The applicant is coming in off of West 12th Street. I know north is to your right, but he's coming in past some properties on West 12th Street that remain in Minnehaha County. At first reading or at Planning Commission, a property owner in the south of 12th Street along his access road was available and talked to Mr. Allen, and he would like a fence to be built along his east property line adjacent to Mr. Allen's west property line, and that agreement has been reached. And so Mr. Allen will be building a fence along the roadway abutting the single-family property owners so that people drive in off 12th Street won't see the guy's house.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Anyone from the public want to speak on item 50 tonight? Come on up. Good evening, sir.
Yes, my name's Martin Weber. I live at 600 South Mary Jean Avenue. I don't believe this here is anywhere compatible to the residential neighborhood. This Windmill Ridge addition is all brand-new townhouses, villas, and single-family homes. I just moved in February. They're still building houses there. I don't know of any neighbor would even remotely think that that is compatible with residential properties. On the south end of that, this is Windmill Ridge addition. So you got West Windmill Ridge Street that is 127 feet north of Windmill Ridge Street. Starts this 10-acre storage buildings. And I don't see how they're compatible. On this drawing there, there's 6 rows of storage buildings with garage doors. The first one is 372 feet. That doesn't look like a house at all. The second one is 353 feet long with garage doors both sides. Third one is 496 feet long. That doesn't look like a house or building to me. The fourth one, same thing, 496 feet long, garage doors. And the middle part is 2 stories. The next one's 496 feet. Fifth one, 496 feet. The sixth one, 496 feet. And it's 127 feet from West Windmill Ridge Street, which is in the middle, at the heart of this Windmill Ridge addition that Ellen Holmes is building. None of the homeowners had any inkling at all that this agricultural land was going to be rezoned for storage buildings for RVs or whatever. It's going to decrease my property value, and I want to protest the lack of notification that any of us in our neighborhood has had on this. There's one sign up on a dead-end road on Gill Avenue, so one lane street, because they only did half of it. You go 10 feet into the gravel and into the weeds, you see one sign. My wife and I walk 1 to 3 times a day through our neighborhood for exercise. I saw it last week. So we didn't even have the opportunity. There's no notification from Ellen Holmes or the city that we could have any input in this. No, I don't think, and likewise, the access to it on that last drawing where the sheds were on the north end, it says future access road. We're in the north end there. So they'll be able to come in Windmill Ridge Street, go to Gill Avenue, and get to the access road and get into the main thing. The access road's also going to go into the east, into the heart of the residential neighborhood, and be able to be driving around. So as Lord knows, I can't predict how many people are going to come in through the south end, but quite a few. Most of the people in Sioux Falls live south of 12th Street. They're going to come up Ellis Road, hit Windmill Ridge Street, go up either Gill or come on the east side and go in. So I do not think this is a monster storage. 496 feet. I mean, there's 3 different buildings there, but they all butt to each other, and garage doors every side. That's not compatible. I don't want this in my neighborhood. I don't know of anybody on this panel or the commission that says, build this next to my house. And the reason's because it decreases, most likely, your property value. And that's what it's going to do, I fear, to mine. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Martin. Good evening, ma'am. You can pull those mics down a little bit there.
Is that good?
Pull the other one too, there you go.
Not together.
They shouldn't touch though. Keep them about 6 inches.
Don't touch.
Other way. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, I'm new at this.
That's all right.
I'm Nancy Hain. I live at 525 South Mary Jean. I've been there 1 year and 3 months. And this road that's when he was talking about Windmill Ridge, that's the access road that all of us have to get in to our development. So we use that every time we want to get home or go. I didn't know they would do this rezoning. I thought I was moving into a development of residential homes and townhouses. They withheld that information from me when I was signing the contract. They could have told me, and they didn't, so I didn't know. I learned just yesterday that they want to build these storage buildings to house the RV vehicles, and it's a large area, as the previous man said. Some of them are 2 stories. I live in a villa. That's a 1-story. So that's what my backyard will look at. When I look out my patio, I was hoping there would be some other houses and other garages back there, and maybe even some trees and, you know, a nice thing to look at when you're sitting on your patio. Well, I'll be looking at that ugly scene. The traffic will increase, and there'll be garage doors to each of these storage buildings, and the RV vehicles can come 24 hours a day. So as you know, there'll be security lights on all the time. So that's what I'll look at even if I'm outside at night. I'll see all those security lights. This will bring the property values down. I would have never, ever built this if I knew it was going to be across from a commercial industrial park. Allen Homes deceived us. I hope you can put yourself in my shoes.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Richard Eisinger. I live at 533 South Mary Jean, also in Windmill Ridge. And I'd like to start by thanking the mayor and the whole city council for your community service and the job that you do. It's got to feel like a really thankless task most of the time. You're making difficult decisions every day, every week, and you're not ever going to make everyone happy. I agree with a lot of what my predecessors have said there. I think everybody that I've talked to in the community was just totally shocked to find out about this meeting, not to mention about the development that's proposed and the rezoning that's involved. If little orange sign informing the public of this meeting, because nobody knew about it. It was down at the end past a road that's closed. The road also goes down a little bit in elevation, so you could see about this much of it if you were really looking in the weeds and stuff. So the whole thing was a total shock, and shocks aren't generally received well by people. So I've done, among other things, I've been a real estate professional for residential real estate for over 20 years. So I can look at this both as a personal and a broader perspective, and I'm probably a little less excited than some people are about it all. But I agree that butting a commercial development up to a residential property doesn't do good things for the property values. People don't generally want to buy, and when I've shown homes in the past, any number of times we've pulled up to a house and looked at it and said, no, we don't want that because of what's behind it. So I do agree. I think it's going to hurt everyone's property values that go in there. Because of the lack of communication on what the project is, I think if we'd been informed and there'd been communications, perhaps some of this would have been mitigated. If our questions were answered, we could see that, gee, maybe it's not going to be as bad as we're envisioning it. But storage facilities, well, I've heard that it's going to be RV storage, and if that's the case, they're really tall, and those types of facilities usually have really tall fences. So I don't know what the buffer zone's going to do, but short of being instantly a really huge green hedge, it's probably going to be negative in terms of what anybody would want to look at. So I guess that's pretty much what I got to say. It's been a shock. It's been disappointing that there wasn't better communications, and it's going to negatively impact how we perceive our community and property values. But thanks again for your help and your service.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else here to speak on this? Come on up. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Stephanie Gavin. I live at 526 South Mary Jean, and I'm basically directly east of where this facility will be built. I saved for many years as a single mother to have this down payment for the beautiful home I have. Excuse me. And did a lot of research in the areas I wanted to live in, and I chose this place. I assumed from looking at things that it would, as other people have said, that it would be housing. And I am concerned about my property values. I have a adult son who is disabled, and this is part of my plan for him. And I'm really concerned now, and I really feel that I was deceived through omission. I understand business is business, but I think that this was omitted from a lot of us. We had no clue. So I just wanted to share my feelings on that. And I just don't want to look out my second story window and see a bunch of lights all night long. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good evening.
My name is Joanne Snell. I live at 606 South Mary Jean Avenue, and I was not deceived by omission. I was outright deceived. I asked that the question of Allen Homes, how is the balance of the development going to be developed before I ever purchased? Tim Alex, the realtor who was a seller for Allen, told me that they would be apartments and possibly a change to villas, but there would be definitely one of those two things built there. Before I signed my contract, I talked with Kim Hefner, who at the time was the general manager for Allen Homes. She concurred that there would be either apartments or villas. So I had no idea that this would be changed to huge RV storages. And, you know, I don't think any of you, I moved as a senior to this community because I thought it was going to be a very diverse, comfortable, well-managed, well-groomed, I should say, place where I could live the rest of my life out. And I know there are people in our addition who have no clue. I had no idea the first meeting was happening. No idea. The second one, same thing. If my neighbor hadn't told me, I would not be here tonight to try to stop this from happening, because I don't think anyone sitting on this council would want to live next to or close to huge storage buildings that are, I'm not going to take your time up with this, what already has been said that we know is going to happen. But I know I bought mine to live out the rest of my life comfortably and enjoying the home that I purchased. I know there are young people in our neighborhood who have built their forever home, hopefully, and they don't even know this is happening. My granddaughter was here as well. She had to leave. They're one of the young ones. They did not know this was happening either. So I guess I would just plead to your conscience, would you want to live in something like this? They built their forever dream home, is now become a nightmare, and I will not enjoy my time at this community either if this should go through. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joanne. Anyone else here to speak on this item? Come on up. We'll get you a handheld mic, sir. Or,
no, not wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you.
I won't make you take that Husker hat off either.
Oh, goodness, come on. Hello, my name is Mike Brown. I live at 521 South Mary Jean Avenue. I'm living there currently with my wife. And we moved in as this was kind of the fruition of our life. Excuse me. The fruition of our life. We're going to build. We're going to live there comfortably. And the neighborhood is already just so wonderful, the people that you run into, and it's just a wonderful neighborhood. Now, Allen Homes, when we first started looking at this situation, we were guided to their other developments and saying that they're all pretty much the same way. And we were floored how beautiful all these developments were. And so when we had 2.5 days to come here and meet, we really didn't get enough chance to really get a lot of facts and points together. But this is a case where there's residential, and then all of a sudden it's almost like a shoehorn. They're just going to butt in this warehouse right into the back end of more or less in the middle of a residential. It just took us all by storm, quite frankly. And I do say that Allen Homes had a little bit of deception when they said, this is our neighborhoods, this is what we like to finish up with. And then here, 2.5 days ago, I find out that in the middle of this, monstrosity is going up. Now, if you go around Sioux Falls, luckily we're not going up, we're going out. And there's a lot of room where we can start with buildings, businesses, storage units. We can start with that and then ease back into the residential. A residential neighborhood that's already been started and pretty much completed, and just to shoehorn it in there, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But I appreciate all your time. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Mike. Sir, you only get one chance to speak per item.
Could I read part of a letter from Judy Bittner? She was exposed to COVID and can't be here. Is that permitted?
You can certainly read her letter. You bet.
This is from Judy Bittner. She lives at 517 South Mary Jean Avenue. She said, basically, she's not in favor of the proposed rezoning because of the potential impact on her property. She's worried about the vehicles driving down Windmill Ridge Street to Gill Avenue, which is going to be completed to the north, and the access to her neighborhood. And yeah, just the 10 acres is how big that 10.39 acres is the main part. That's not a small development in residential homes.
Sure, okay. Thanks, Martin. Judy. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Shirley Lund from 509 South Mary Jean Avenue. And we learned about this whole rezoning process yesterday to a neighbor. I'm sure I'm the newest resident in that neighborhood. I have lived there less than 2 months. I would urge your opposite. I am rise to oppose this rezoning for this sort of a storage unit setting. It just doesn't match with when we purchased from Allen Homes, what Allen Homes was telling us we would be part of. And again, property values, access roads, all of those things are of great concern to me, and I would urge you to spend a lot of more time on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? Come on up. Good evening, sir.
Evening. Tony Wheelberg. I've been here before. I'm the one that has the property there, and he brought up the cedar fencing on the east side of my property. We also agreed he was going to put the fencing on the south side of my property too, but you only said the east side. No, I said the east and south. Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. Never mind then. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? All right, Councilor Selberg.
I'm going to throw it out there for something to think about. Make a motion to defer till the third Tuesday in August, because obviously some more communication needs to happen here, either between the developer and this neighborhood or whatever else we might need to learn some more. At least that's my first notion, so I'll put that out.
Second, Nitzert.
All right, so that was a motion by Selberg, seconded by Nitzert to defer to, and I'm sorry, the The meeting-
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. Okay. Discussion on that, Counselor Neitzer and then Counselor McCourse.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know what exactly happened here, but there's been, and I don't know if I'll ultimately support this or not, but there's obviously been some failure of communication, and I don't know whether there was any sort of meeting or discussion from the applicant and everybody else. Okay, all right. So, I think deferring this is a good idea, if only so that, we send letters to people that live within 300 feet in addition to the signs, but I could see in this case with the signs, with that property and the lack of development, the signs are probably kind of in the middle of nowhere if you put them on the corners of most properties, so you wouldn't see the signs, and you don't have the influence zone, do you, Mr. Schmidt? Okay, because usually, sometimes we'll have a map that'll show the influence zone of 300 feet around the parcel, and it could be that most of you are outside of the 300 feet and you wouldn't have got a letter, and so it's a lot of vacant parcels or parcels that are still owned by the builder. I think, you know, something fell down there. And one thing I want you to do, and maybe some of you have, but as a friendly homework project, I live right over in your area. Go down Ellis Road to Lock It Up Storage, which is right down just south of Shenanigans, and just take a really good look at, that's just an example, Lock It Up Storage. I lived a block from there, and I'm not saying I'll support this one or I won't, but I heard some things. Mr. Schmidt, could you just clarify, is there outdoor storage allowed, and can you park vehicles outdoor in residential compatible self-storage?
Thank you. That's one of the things I was looking up. So again, to make sure that everybody, even people at home, are aware, this is the city code in regards to residential compatible storage. We're rezoning it not to storage, we're rezoning it to office. And if he rezones it to office, he could come in and build an office building or any of these other uses. And what he said was he's going to do residential compatible storage, which is your question. And in the code, residential compatible storage is a storage structure shall be constructed with a pitched roof that shall be a minimum pitch of 412. The storage structure shall not be longer than 1 to 4 width to length before a break. Breaks are considered to be at least 3 feet horizontal or vertical in building elevations. All structure facades visible from public streets shall include standard brick masonry units at least 32 inches high. Each building unit shall have an architectural element such as a column, gable, or roof vents with dormers. Residential style lighting shall be in conformance with 160-491, so they need residential lighting, not industrial lighting. Residential fencing materials and in conformance with 160-480. No outside storage allowed, and that's the last of the standards.
Thank you. And I'll totally respect everybody coming back and telling me what they think. I mean, if you still don't like it, that's fine, but I heard some things that I think some people are conflating regular storage with, let's say, you know, big chain link fencing and RVs parked outside, and that is not anything that I would want anywhere near me. So I would just encourage you to take a look at this. It looks very, very different. They actually do look like kind of garages, and when they're facing inward, it was really not a bad neighbor. It was pretty quiet, but I will respect if you still oppose it. But I just want to make sure we're all calibrated and we're all talking about the same thing. And I don't know if the applicant is here, but I'm going to strongly encourage the applicant. Well, okay, maybe, would you mind, Mr. Mayor, if we could?
You bet.
There needs to be, I think we have to get some communications, and I don't know if you have some plans in which you can show them kind of what they're going to look like. Anyway, please.
I understand that. My name's Doug Allen, Allen Homes. I respect what people are saying up here, but to tell you where we got to this point, this is not part of Windmill Ridge. I do not own it yet. It's subject to the rezoning of this intended use. This all came up in the last few months as we went through annexation in the first reading, and the letters were sent out. We had one person show up at 3 hearings so far. So this is the first complaint, and they seem to all be on Mary Jane, which is when Windmill Ridge itself is finished, you probably won't even see it from there. But we didn't try to deceive, and we did not deceive anyone. Windmill Ridge is apartments, villas, and single-family homes. We thought about the letters and all those issues, and no one coming to the first 3 hearings, that we didn't think we had that big of a deal. Residential compatible, Jeff is just going to repeat what I'd written down, all the different statements and that. I will have a meeting with these people if that's what it takes. I posted it, 2 on 12th Street on the corner of the property, 2 on the back street, even mowed around one of the signs on the back street. So I did not try to deceive one I posted signs 3 different times for 2 weeks at a time. So I will communicate with these people and try to make them understand what I want to do. I don't have an issue with that.
Thank you. And I take you at your word. I think this is one of those deals where our zoning code is good, but it can't capture everything. And I think with the lack of development, I shouldn't say lack, but the way in which it's progressing, it's just outside of the influence zone where you could, put up the signs, letters could go out, but there's just a gap in distance. Yeah. And so I was watching the planning commission meetings and I saw, first reading, and I heard nothing from anybody. So I'm assuming that this might have been something where people found out at the very last minute, one way or the other. They caught, they heard about it. And so maybe everybody was in good faith. But yeah. I think obviously there's a lot of concerns. And I think for many, if they see residential compatible self-storage in the example I pointed out, I think if we're at least talking about the same thing, because I think we're, getting confused between regular self-storage and residential compatible, and especially if you have any elevations or some architectural, just basic drawings or something, maybe you won't come to a complete compromise or whatever. But anyway, I look forward to you hopefully being able to talk to them, and then let's talk about it in a few weeks. So, thank you.
Thanks, Doug. All right, is there other discussion on the motion to defer? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on that then, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 51 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, directing submission of an initiated measure to prohibit the construction or permitting of new slaughterhouses within the city limits to a vote of the electors of the city at the general election to be held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. Council sponsors, Council members Sale and Jensen.
Tom, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tom Greco, City Clerk. I'll repeat for the most part what I stated at the first reading a few weeks ago. So there are 2 purposes for this this ordinance. It's technically the presentation of the petition to the governing body, as this is the second reading, and it's also the governing body ultimately certifying language to be placed on a ballot, directing me to submit it in the way that I'll explain. So just as background, a petition was registered with the city clerk's office in accordance with city ordinance on April 15th of 2022. The petition was evaluated per state law and administrative rules and found to contain a sufficient number of signatures per state law. The petition was validated on Monday, July 11th, and the sponsor and council was notified, as well as a press release issued. So because the petition was found to be valid, the council is required by statute to submit, and I quote here, to submit the question to the electors at the next annual municipal election or the next general election, whichever is earlier. So clearly the general election is earlier, but there's also a provision that states the municipality shall certify the ballot language to the county auditor by the first Tuesday in August, today, of the year of the general election. And it goes on to say, unless an extension has been granted. So in this case, an extension has been granted by both the Lincoln County and Minnehaha County auditors, allowing for today's second reading. The language would be effective ultimately next week, so it can be submitted and placed on the ballot. Administrative rule prescribes the format of a ballot question, and in this case, it's reflected in paragraph 1 of the ordinance before you. Everything from the instructional language down to what a yes and a no vote means, down to the city attorney's explanation. Of course, the city attorney comes up with the explanation, but the format of all of that is prescribed by administrative rule. The council is considering this action by ordinance tonight because city charter requires all actions related to the conduct of elections to be by city ordinance. And as I noted last time and is included with the background and objective for this particular item, I would state that this is essentially a procedural action for all of you because as I mentioned, the format, the form of the proposed item is prescribed by administrative rule. So I would recommend that you approve this. So passage of this ordinance will ultimately certify the language that you see before you, and it also directs me to submit it to the county auditors as I described before. There's also two other components in there. One is saying that we'll share the costs of any additional costs with each of the counties, which I will work out with each one of the counties. I don't anticipate it being even in the thousands of dollars. It'll be ultimately the cost of maybe some additional ballots, depending on splits within certain precincts, and also just some of the charges they get from the vendor for placing items on a ballot, which would not be any need for supplemental appropriations or anything like that. The last thing is that it does go into effect upon publication, which it'll be published, as I said before, Monday. So subject to your questions, I would recommend this be approved. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Council, you have any questions for Tom here?
Move approval, Sale.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote on it, please.
Council members Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 52 is a first reading deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 157, subdivisions, subchapter concept plan. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Thank you again. So item 52 and 53 kind of go together, but 52 is in regards to the subdivision ordinance, and it says that a concept plan may be required, and we took out may, and it really just states what a concept plan is. And I hope it's self-explanatory. It's a concept plan so that we can look at what is generally in the area, give us the layout, and tell us what a developer is looking to do for a concept plan. And you can see what we're proposing to change is very minimal. For example, one of the things they said, we wanted preliminary drainage, and I said we want preliminary sanitary and storm drainage. So that was the correction that I'm making on what a concept plan is, and then I'll explain it in more detail in 53.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 52? Any questions, council, for Jeff here?
Move approval.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9. Any discussion on that? All right, let's vote, please.
Council members Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale, Star,
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 53.
Item 53 is a first reading deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 153, Annexation Policies. The Planning Commission recommends approval 5-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
In this section of city ordinance is the annexation section, and we're going to require a concept plan. Right now, when an annexation comes in, we get an application and a fee. And so all they have to do is give us a legal description, and we always say, hey, we'd really like to know what you're proposing to do with this land. And it's going to be really nice to say, we're going to require you to give us, as you just saw, a concept plan. Say, do you think you have water and sewers that are going to be residential, so that we can stand up in front of city council and say, they're proposing to do this. They can get it exempted by the city engineer if they're like, look, it's for all these different reasons that, you know, we don't know yet, or it's such a small parcel, or we're coming in for a homeowner that has an existing house. I wouldn't require them to do a concept plan. So they could get it exempted, but in general, we're going to require that they give us a concept plan.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on 53? Council, any questions for Jeff here? Counselor Neitzer, go ahead.
You answered this partially, Jeff, but concept plan, how complicated are we getting to? Are we talking about you gotta hire engineers and they gotta spend $2,000 to annex, or, I mean, napkin sketch? What are we looking for?
Yes. So, it's right in between those two. It never says anywhere in there that it has to be an engineered drawing. It
Yeah.
never says that you have to get engineering specs. It says you need to give us a concept of what you're doing here. A lot of times they give us a napkin sketch, and I'm like, great, that gives us, but we go, the more you give us, which it kind of says in there, gets you further along in your rezoning and they're like, well, then if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do a engineered drawing. We're like, that's fine. It doesn't say it's required to be by a certified license, which is why I said yes. We don't say napkin, we don't say engineer, we say, you got to give us a concept plan. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to get an engineer to draw it. I'm like, that's fine.
I assume this is a case, but I assume there's no, it's not binding in terms of if that's their concept and they decide to change it in 2 months?
Correct. Again, concept plan, preliminary plan, developer's engineering plan. Developer's engineering plan is the first binding one that they have.
Finally, if we could.
Go ahead.
Why are you interested in, just curious, I mean, why are you curious in having a concept plan versus, I mean, you can know whether you can serve it or not?
Because we don't know if we can serve it or not. When they come in, they say, I want to annex this land, and we go, is it for residential housing or is it slab on grade? Is this going to be for a park? And we go, we have no idea if they just annex a piece of ground, what the land uses are going to be, if they're putting in basements, Sometimes we're like, well, you can't get sewer to that. Well, I didn't need sewer. Well, it would have been nice to know that if you gave us a concept plan.
Sure, because if they were annexing it to do a big industrial thing, they may need a lot of wastewater treatment, or if it's something that's a park, they need almost no sewer, and that could be different capacities.
Yeah.
So the more you know, the more that you can make an informed decision of whether annexation is advisable.
Advisable, and again, that's where the first part of your question was. Then we can get them so much further. They're like, well, now my preliminary plan is going to go so much easier. Then my subdivision plans are, if they can do some of that upfront work, which most of them do, they're like, we had all that, and they can go forward in their preliminary plan because their engineering analysis is done. If they go, I'm not that far yet, we're like, that's fine. Just give us some idea what type of land use so we can make a logical input back to you that says, we don't think you're going to have enough water. Well, I didn't need enough. Well, give us that indication.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions on this item? Counselor Starr?
Mr. Schmidt, I think that it's part of what's been getting us in trouble. When we get a large group of people, similar to the one we just did earlier this evening, is that we start out with a concept plan and the neighborhood around it sold, and then they come back and say, well, the concept didn't work, so instead of building a fourplex, we're now going to build 3 32-unit complexes, and all of a sudden the neighbors, I don't know how to get to the point. Do you change the zoning before you have a final plan? And that's where we seem to, on some of these infills, get into trouble, or that the neighbors were like, hey, that's not what you planned. I can think of a couple of different ones, but one that stands out, and it's like, hey, we cut a deal with the neighborhood, everybody's happy, and then it didn't work out financially, but we had already changed the zoning and there was no second bite of the apple. And I get you're trying to help us get partway down the road, but again, we could change it to office and end up with storage or residential storage, and it just trying to figure out a better way to inform the neighbors without telling people what they can do with their personal property.
The easiest way for me to answer that is, again, when we came up with the zoning ordinance back in 2013, 2014, we stood in front of everybody. I was going to say God and everybody, but you get my point.
I get it.
And said zoning matters. Okay, because prior to that, anybody will remember conditional uses killed us. And that really hurt people. So now zoning matters, and when people see the land zoned, the project before us was ag, which they knew it wasn't going to be ag. So once it's zoned, then they can do a lot of different things, but they have to reflect on, if it's zoned residential, it's gonna pretty much stay residential. Yeah, but I didn't know if they were gonna build a church, a school, or a single-family house. Well, but it's gonna be within this parameter. So my answer is, once it's zoned, 95% of them stay zoned, and they don't change. So that's what I'm gonna answer to you is, if we get them zoned, they stay zoned, they don't change that often. It's the ag that changes too. And people go, well, I didn't know that I was living next to, there's your challenge.
Nope, and that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish, and that's why it's a big deal to change it, and that's why they come in front of us to do that once it's zoned, and then to make that change, but it's within those categories, so, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'd look for a motion, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9.
So
Move
moved,
to approve,
Jensen.
McCoris.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by McCoris, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes. All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 54 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the mayor to enter into a conditional gifting and naming agreement for a future cash gift to the Startup Sioux Falls Foundation. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Jeff, good evening.
Good evening, Jeff Eckhoff, Planning and Development Services. So this is a little bit of deja vu and a little bit of procedural cleanup. So on July 5th, you did pass the second on the naming of the Market Beat Theater and the Homegrown Capital Room for the Startup Sioux Falls building on the 6th and Phillips. So as we went through this process, there's also a gifting agreement, and remember that came up in conversation. And as City Attorney's Office looked at that, the gifting and the naming is tied together. So they sent it back to the naming committee, even though it's a gifting agreement. And so we had another hearing about it on July 22nd. The naming committee came together to approve, to recommend approval of the gifting and naming agreement for this. Brianne Maynor is here with Startup Sioux Falls if you have any further questions on the gifting agreement. But this is the first reading for that action.
Thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic? Councilors, you got any questions on this one tonight?
Move approval. Second, Jensen.
Motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to move this to a second reading on August 9. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes. All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 55 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter, Mechanical and Fuel Gas Code. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
It's the Butch Show for the next few items, huh?
Yep,
All
that's
right.
me.
All right.
Good evening, Butch Warrington, Building Services. This one here and the following two are cleanup. I made a mistake when you approved it about a year ago on the files. We found our mistake, and it's to clean this up. We have been charging what we intended because it was less than what this is, but it is a cleanup.
All right. Thanks, Butch. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 55? Council, any questions for Butch here?
Move approval, Jensen.
Second call.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole to set a date of second reading for the 9th of August. Any discussion on that one? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes. All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 56 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter Electricity. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
This is number 2. It was mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. This is another one we get to straighten out. So this is the electrical one.
Thanks, Butch. Anyone from the public want to speak on 56? Council, got any questions here?
Move approval.
Second call.
Motion by Selberg and seconded by Cole to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th. Discussion there? All right, let's vote on it.
Council members Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that one passes 8-0. Next item.
Next item is 57, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter Plumbing. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
This is number 3 of 3, fixing my mistakes.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on 57? Council, any questions for Butch on this?
Move to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9, 2022.
Second, Star.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Star. Any discussion there? Let's vote, please.
Council members Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Item 58, please.
Item 58 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter Residential Building Contractors. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
This one is where we found out what it is. We require 1 hour of continuing education for our residential contractors. That's every 3 years. We had a little discussion with one of the contractors because he didn't get his education in during that 3-year period. He came to me and he says it doesn't specifically say that. So we're cleaning this up so it does specifically say that.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 58? Council, any questions here?
Move to set a date for second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022.
Second Cole.
All right, motion by Star, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Council members Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg? Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 59 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter Residential Code. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
This is raising the minimum fee. That's really what it's about. We kept all the fees the same, but we want to raise the minimum fee from $20 to $40. And that's based on about a half-hour inspection time. By the time you include labor, miscellaneous for the trucks, the permit tax and everything, that's where we did that. I did take this to the Home Builders Association and they were in favor of it. They actually took it to their general committee and they favored it also, no complaints at all. We also are increasing the reinspection fees from 70 to 200, and just to let you know, nobody gets a reinspection fee unless they've failed a couple of times. It's common practice. If you make a mistake, we go out and inspect it again. But if you tell us you fixed it 3 times and it's not done, we have the ability to send you a little citation.
All right, thanks, Butch. Anyone from the public like to speak on 59? Council, any questions here? Councilor Selberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When's the last time we raised these fees?
It was in 1998, if I remember right.
Yeah, so it was a little bit overdue.
It's been a while, yeah.
But overwhelming approval and in every which direction you took it?
Excuse me?
Overwhelming approval in the different areas you took it and brought it in front of people?
Had no questions even really brought to me. It was just a nice general meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Councilor McCours?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. I've never heard of the government raising fees and no objections coming to the government raising fees. So I guess I'm a little skeptical and wondering, are they not objecting because these fees don't impact them? They impact more the do-it-yourself kind of individual at home, and we haven't really surveyed them yet. So how much does this impact Rich McCoris just coming in and doing something versus the contractor coming in and doing something?
I think the big thing is that they realize it's just the minimum fees they're raising. We're not raising anything other than the minimum fees, and I think they understand that our costs go up too, so that's why they didn't complain at all.
And then my final question would be, is there any options? How do we set this up where it doesn't lapse another 20 years? So that doesn't happen again. What are our options on that?
You can always raise it any time, but we try to keep everything as low cost as we can, because a lot of those minimum fees are going to affect the homeowner the most, and that's the ones we try to keep it down for.
Thanks.
All right, other questions for Butch on 59? All right, take a motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9.
So moved. Jensen.
Second, Sale.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
No.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 7-1. Next item.
Next item is item 60, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 150, Building Subchapter Building Code. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
This one is the same as the last one, only it's for the building code, so it's for the commercial projects. I did reach out to about 10 different commercial contractors in town. There again, they didn't have anything to complain. They had some questions to clarify things, kind of like the reinspection fee, but they didn't have any complaints with it whatsoever.
All right. Anyone from the public like to speak on item 60? Councilors, questions for Butch on this one?
Move approval. Second.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, August 9. Discussion on that? All right, let's vote on it, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 8-0. Next item.
Item 61 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Annexation 015758-2021, I-90 right-of-way. Sponsor is the mayor.
Two interesting annexations for you tonight. This first one is I'm going to go ahead and annex the I-90 interstate right-of-way. We're going to require a concept plan. I'm going to exempt it. You already know what it is. This is by the request of Metro Communications and your fire department. Currently, if you crash out here, we are not the first responders, okay? Because it's not in city limits. So we're going from Kiwanis, it's map 1 of 5. We're going from Kiwanis Avenue all the way east, out past the Veterans Parkway to the first turnaround so that fire and emergency services can turn around. So if there is a emergency on the interstate, on I-90, we will be the responders. They are very happy with me tonight. Well, they will be after tonight. Well, we'll see.
You'll see. Don't count your chickens, man.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, sir.
Anyone from the public here to speak on this one? All right, councilors, you have any questions for Jeff on this item? All right, I'll take a motion.
Move approval, Sale.
Second call.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Cole to approve 61. Discussion on that? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that one passes 8-0. Item 62, please.
Item 62 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Annexation 016703, 2022, Crushers Family Park Edition. Sponsor is the mayor.
So then, when I met with emergency services and said I just about have the I-90 legal description done, they said, yeah, but what about Family Park? And so then I came back and they want Family Park annexed in too. So we are annexing in 93 acres of Family Park because, as I just saw the facial description there, Family Park is owned by the City of Sioux Falls, but it's not in the city limits. So we're annexing it in because now we also can be first responder here too. If there's a call for emergency services at Family Park, we will respond.
Got it. All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on 62? Council, questions on this item?
Move approval. Nitzert.
Second call.
Motion by Nitzert, seconded by Cole. Any discussion on that motion? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg? Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, item 64.
Item 64 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Experience Sioux Falls for the management of the Sioux Falls Visitor Information Center and Viewing Tower at Falls Park. Sponsor is the mayor.
Good evening, Jackie.
Good evening, Jackie Nelson, Parks and Recreation. So here to talk to you tonight about the Falls Park Visitor Center Management Agreement. So again, this management agreement ultimately engages Experience Sioux Falls to manage and operate the Visitor Center at Falls Park. Giving you a little bit of an overview again, the previous agreement expired in December of 21, and that was a 5-year term. The current agreement that is currently expiring is only a 9-month term, and that was because the Chamber and Experience Sioux Falls were going through some legal status changes. Those have all been finalized, and so now we're coming to the end of that September 30th date, and because everything has been finalized, we're ready to move forward with a new 5-year agreement. So 3 changes within the agreement, everything else stays the same. The first one would be the agreement reflects the new name of Experience Sioux Falls versus Chamber of Commerce. The second being the 5-year term rather than the 9-month, so starting September 1st of 2022 and ending on August 31st of 2027. And then finally, the insurance change. So within all of our multi-year contracts, insurance has been set at 45 days where the agency needs to provide proof of insurance. That's really unrealistic in today's market and not really acceptable. So we're looking at switching all of our insurance language within all of our multi-year contracts to 15 days, this being one of those first contracts that we do it. So that's the only other change you'll see in this is proof of insurance required to the city that we are additionally insured within 15 days of expiration versus 45 days. And beyond that, everything else is the same. Just to give you a little bit of the timeline from the past, I was at informational back on July 5th. We did present this to the Park Board on July 20th. They did recommend approval, and so we're here tonight, and Parks recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Jackie. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 64? Council questions for Jackie on this one? All right, take a motion.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second Cole.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole to approve 64. Any discussion on that? All right, we'll vote then, please.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
And council members, we're presenting this, myself and Jim David will present this on behalf of the Council Operations Committee who reviewed this last month. So well, before I go further, there are 2 changes that'll come before you tonight. One is just addressing agendas. I spoke about that before, but we'll add a little more. And then Jim will speak to the travel policy. So very simple for council meeting agendas. This adds a new section into the policy manual that basically memorializes some of the things we already do, also adds a few new things, which again, I think will make agendas more consumable to the public, to you, and to really just anybody who's reviewing them. So the first item up there, number 1, basically all business types identified in what amounts to the title consent agenda through adjournment. We'll have a brief description of the business type and the time allowed for public comment on the said types. And so there's an arrow to the right just showing one example of what you'd see. For example, on the consent agenda, it would identify the fact that several items are considered with 1 vote. Any council member could pull any item, place it on the regular agenda. Again, not necessarily an educational tool, but just a tool for people to be able to pick it up, maybe time when they should be coming to a meeting, which we're always encouraging right at 6 p.m. when we start. But also just the fact that certain things can happen. The agenda could be amended, the order changed, there are certain votes required for certain things, public input could is provided at a certain time, and there's a certain time limit for each item. The second thing up there just memorializes what's already done. We've been including the Planning Commission vote for several years. This just puts it in writing, says that we will do it. The third item there, again, we've been doing this for about 3 years now, providing a recommendation for when a second reading would be, or hearing in some cases. So the recommendation is placed on the agenda. Again, it's a recommendation to the council as to what they're going to do, because for those first readings and very often notice of hearings, you're deciding essentially on a date. The fourth item is what I discussed before, what was adopted before. It, again, memorializes the background and objective statement and examples up there, kind of what it would look like on an agenda. And then below that, under item 4, it does say that these annotations that are described need not be read into the record. The point is, ideally, we would not be reading the background and objective statement because it could be lengthy. And then the last item there, not so much related to annotations on an agenda, but more so to the agenda itself, is just memorializing the fact that we won't place anything under new business on a published agenda because instead we will place them, typically motions, under resolutions or hearings, because new business within the context of our city ordinance has a very specific meaning in that it's presented that evening at a council meeting. So just to avoid confusion in the future. So up there is an example, just 2 random items from the last several weeks. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I will turn it over to Jim.
Good evening, councilors. Jim David with the City Council Office. The travel policy was first adopted in September of 2013 and lays out the process for how council travel is approved. When a council member or staff submit a travel request, it will fall under the pre-authorized travel or all other travel. When you hear pre-authorized, think of those events and conferences hosted by organizations that the city is a member, such as the Municipal League, National League of Cities, or Chamber of Commerce. If we look at the pre-authorized travel, what happens is that the travel request is submitted to the chair, and the chair reviews it. It can either approve it by signing it, or he can defer it to the city council, and then the city council will act on that request. It can either approve it, sending it back to the chair for his signature, or it can actually decline that request. All other travel faces additional scrutiny in that it goes to the city council for consideration, and if approved, the chair signs, but it can also decline that request. So when we look at some of the proposed changes that were made to this policy, we see some cleanup language to the moving the education, travel, and training section to the very front end of the policy manual. Pre-authorized travel would include ground travel within a 350-mile radius of the city, as long as it relates to the city council's policy-making role. So that would now be under pre-authorized under these changes. It also removes this language that says the city council budget shall include appropriations for education and training for its members. In the past, during difficult budgetary times, travel was removed, and therefore we just feel that this reflects previous practice. Since the operations committee, there have been some concerns about a few sections within this procedures manual. First, the existing language is unclear for when a counselor is expected to formally present on their travel. The changes above provide clarity that these reports would only be necessary following travel to an out-of-town conference or training that exceeds $500. The second part of this amendment would categorize travel associated with a vendor to be categorized as pre-authorized. This issue came up following a conversation about travel for an out-of-state software training opportunity for one of the staff. Instead of a formal request in front of the city council, this change would allow the council chair to approve this travel request for travel of an entity that the city enjoys a contractual relationship. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and I know Tom's here also.
All right, thanks, Jim. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? All right, let's get a motion on the floor, and then you guys can move into discussion amongst yourself if you have it.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Sale.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale. Counselor Jensen?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the policy manual by inserting training between events and conferences and or has an existing contract or agreement after member in the third sentence of the section labeled pre-authorized.
Second?
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale with that amendment. Any discussion on that?
Jim outlined that, so I think that speaks for itself, and we can go ahead and vote on it.
All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Baranco?
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 8-0. Back to the main motion as amended. Counselor Nitzert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to amend the policy manual by inserting the sentence, "For purposes of this policy, any nonprofit organization under Section 501C of the United States Internal Revenue Code is not considered a partisan organization," between the second and third sentences of the first paragraph to education, travel, and training policy.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Jensen on that amendment. Any discussion on that? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try not to get too far into the weeds, but historically over the years, I think the term partisan has caused some confusion as to what exactly partisan means when we say the word. The definition of partisan can be giving preference to a political party, or it can refer to being partial to a cause. And I think it would be good to provide some guidance on a go-forward basis for not only council chairs, but for council to have some agreement in what exactly we're talking about. The IRS considers a partisan organization essentially to be involved in or advocating for political parties or candidates. So an entity under 501C of the Internal Revenue Code has to be nonpartisan and strictly cannot do that. They can't be involved in party politics and funding individual candidates. However, that does not mean that they can't have policy positions, advocate, have viewpoints. They just can't be overtly involved in party politics and electing candidates. The IRS has other sections such as 527s, which would cover things like political parties. I think sometimes whether or not you think a particular entity is partisan has a lot to do with potentially your viewpoint. So if you maybe don't agree with their viewpoint, you might think that they're quote-unquote partisan. And I want to give a couple real-world examples that are kind of interesting. Years ago, before I was on the council, I was watching Kermit Staggers asked to go to the American Dream Coalition. They advocate for land use and transportation solutions. They're an IRS 501c4, so they're nonpartisan by the IRS definition, but they certainly advocate. That's what a 501c4 does. They advocate for social causes. And they have viewpoints. I think it's fair to say they're pretty skeptical of a lot of zoning of mass transit. At the time, on their front page, it said light rail is a boondoggle. That was their term. I'm not saying I agree with that or I don't, but it was something that obviously it was controversial. But they advocate for what they believe is what is good transportation policy. And Kermit faced quite a bit of resistance when he wanted to attend that conference. And from the outside looking in, I think a lot of it had to do potentially with their particular viewpoints and whether or not other counselors agreed with those viewpoints. Take on the other side, Smart Growth America. That is another entity that's a 501c4. They advocate for transportation and land use policies. They're really on the other side of the fence, and we've adopted their complete streets policy, for example. And there's some people that would say, including the American Dream Coalition, that Smart Growth America is on the wrong track and their policies are wrong. But they advocate, and so they advocate for things like walkability and mass transit. But neither one of them can openly advocate for candidates, and they can't be involved in party politics. And then when you think about something, for example, like our National League of Cities, if I look at their website and I see the mailers that they send to me, they many times will advocate for a particular position. I mean, they have proposed or advocated that certain bills that the Biden administration has brought forward should be adopted. They're certainly allowed to do that. There's other lines that they can't cross, though. But those who maybe don't agree with that could maybe think, well, maybe they're being quote-unquote partisan. But the IRS says that they're not being partisan. Finally, all of the organizations that we are members of are 501s. So we have 501c6, the Chamber of Commerce, the NLC is 501c4, the Municipal League is a 501c4. All of them advocate, lobby, and take positions on policy. We may or may not agree with all of them, but they do. So essentially what I'm proposing is that the IRS has strict regulations, and if the IRS says that they're nonpartisan, that I think we should follow that particular guidance. Now, that is not the end of the analysis. If you read our rules, it says it has to be nonpartisan, it has to be educational, and it has to be related to the council's policymaking role. So even if it passes a nonpartisan test, either automatically or by judgment, it still has to be educational. The council, the chair has to decide it's educational, and it has to be related to the council's policymaking role. So, you know, for example, if there's the Death Penalty Information Center, they're a 501c. If I wanted to go to that, somebody might say, yeah, it's nonpartisan, but what does that have to do with council policy? We can't affect criminal law. So that is not the end of the test. So this is in harmony with our current memberships, and I think it'll just add some clarity. And any other entity that is not a 501c, there's going to have to be a judgment call. But I think this would give some standard in terms of trying to tease out what quote-unquote is partisan and what isn't. So I ask for your support, and thank you for indulging me.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Other discussion on that amendment? Counselor Starr?
Yep, I'm watching this and I could see where you could go deeper into 501Cs rather than stopping and saying all 501Cs. C4s, our organizations are allowed to participate in politics so long as they do not become their primary focus. And what this has really meant in practice is that less than half of their funds are used for politics or contributing to PACs. And for us to say tonight that they're nonpartisan groups really is a stretch into where we're headed. By not passing this amendment, we still have the ability to send counselors to these activities, but I have a really hard time. I can't sit here tonight and say by this process that Planned Parenthood is a nonpartisan organization, and that's what we're doing. To say the AFL-CIO is a nonpartisan organization, go down the list of, you know, Democrats for Choice or for Life or through the other groups, and to blanketly say that they're nonpartisan. What I think we're trying to fix is, you know, during the impeachment process just a couple of years ago that we went down the ethics board told us that we needed to clean it up. We need to clean up our travel policy, and we need to do that. This does not do that. This puts me in a position to say, again, you pick the organization that's, you know, all the way down the list is a nonpartisan organization. I just can't go along with that.
All right, Counselor Neitzer.
I do appreciate that, and 501c4s certainly do have some of that latitude. I guess I would just say that, you know, if we're going to get into whether or not 501c4s are quote-unquote partisan or not, then I guess we do need to strip the NLC from our budget because it's a 501c4, and they certainly advocate. I mean, you know, I particularly think they have a particular bent, but we're still a member. So I guess we're, again, and I think that's where it comes to that point. If I potentially believe in the cause, I'm not going to think it's partisan. If I don't, then I'm going to think it's partisan. So if you're pro-life, you're going to think that Planned Parenthood is partisan. You know, if you're pro-choice, you're going to think that the Alpha Center is partisan. So I guess that's the struggle that we have. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks.
Other discussion on this one? All right, this is the amendment that we'll take a vote on then.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
No.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that amendment passes 7-1. Now we're back to the main motion as been amended. Are there other amendments or discussion to introduce on this? All right, hearing none, let's vote on the motion as it's been amended then.
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
No.
Baranco.
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 7-1. Next item, please.
Item 66 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rescheduling the business of the city from Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 to Monday, October 17th, 2022.
You're on.
I'm sorry, council sponsors, council members Jensen and Sale, sorry.
Still on.
Mayor and council members, thank you. Tom Greco, City Clerk. This, we traditionally do this each year. This is for the chamber annual meeting, which the council and the mayor and several staff typically attend. So what this does is take that third Tuesday meeting in October and moves it up a day to Monday, the 17th. It would also move the informational meeting. And this is required by ordinance to change it.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone from the public want to speak on that? Council, can I get a motion on this?
Move
item?
approval, Jensen.
Second call.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole. Any discussion on this? All right, let's vote on it, please.
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Jensen, McCurris.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Bronco.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
67 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards, that being Kurt Brost, Event Center Complex Advisory Board.
All right, anyone from the public want to speak on this item? Can I get a motion to approve Kurt here?
Move approval, Sale.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen to approve this item. Any discussion? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Selberg. Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Bronco.
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 8-0. Next item.
Item 68 is a notice of transfer of appropriations on the memorandum dated June 30th, 2022.
All right, council, any new business for us tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to public input for tonight. Anyone here for general public input? Come on up. Good evening.
Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and every now and again I update my old presentations because I learn new things. So that's what's happening tonight. I was driving down the road somewhere and I saw a sign that presents some problems. Too many words, font's too small, couldn't read it whatsoever. And if you can't read a road sign, it's hard to respect it. And I hope that's not a deliberate trap, but it's probably just somebody's mistake. So that's the problem sign on Highway 11. I parked in the shoulder, and it's kind of hard to read it from that perspective. Getting a little closer, well, it's going to be hard to read it from there too. Get right up to it, then you can finally read the sign. Something about school kids and having to drive slower on particular days. This is on Highway 11. So as this is normal for me, I have a few recommendations. The first is that you should be able to read a road sign. And if you can't read the darn thing, well, then maybe we should replace the metal sign with one of those fancy electronic billboards that only says, you know, what it needs to say when it needs to say it. Or, you know, if you don't really need the sign, out it goes, and then you don't have to worry about not enforcing something that's hard to read. Short talk tonight, but of course there's some to make you happy on the end. So here's me having a good time at the Levitt, and the landscape to boots. There you go. Same day, same spot. Good evening, everybody.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak tonight? Good evening.
Good evening. Chester DeYoung, Sioux Falls. You guys have had a really long meeting. I see you guys packing up. You know what? You guys have a great night. You guys work really hard. You deserve what you're doing. We thank you for your service. I will defer my discussion until next meeting. You guys have a great night.
Thanks, sir. Thanks. Anyone else here tonight to speak? All right, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen to adjourn us. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
Great job, Steve.